Good evening, people. 2 seconds. Apologies for being late. My makeup team were caught in traffic. Yeah, couldn't come on here for the makeup. Right, a wee second to make sure I've got what I need here. Fucking sun's out and you don't want to be out. Right, sorted. So, we midweek session this week, and we're going to have Gav on very soon. I'll discuss a few other things. Obviously, there's been a bit of what's the word? Activity going on recently, especially today, in regards to some mainstream media appearances. So I'll maybe discuss that once we get through what we're going to get through. Anybody new coming to this, I'm just going to make this brief. The people here, me in particular, and many of the people here refuse the globe. There is absolutely no measurable scientific proof that you live on the exterior of a sphere with bendy oceans zipping through a vacuum at untold speeds. That's absolutely preposterous. It is not scientific. There's a science attached to the globe, the science of deception, the science of mathematics, both of which do not prove anything to be objectively true. The main components of the globe are sophistry and mathematical jargon, coupled with images. Now, that combination has confused people and pushed people into a paradigm of religious belief in what they think is science, when it's no science. Science was hijacked. Real science belongs to each and every single one of you individuals out there. It is your common sense, your tools of discernment, your senses, for you to discover and discern and explore the objective reality that you find yourself in. It does not belong to any institution, and if you're handing over that power, your own power of discernment, your own power of critical thought, and you're handing that over to an authority, you're a fucking moron, okay? And you need to snap out of it really quickly. You're not a smart ass. You're no part of anybody's team. You're a fucking embarrassment. That's it. I know it's difficult, the same as it was difficult for the rest of us, trying to cling on, desperately cling to a belief because it's a very scary prospect to have the foundations of your very existence whipped away from you. It's not an easy thing to face. But if you're determined enough, like people like myself were, always searching, never accepting the narratives and the stories we were told about life and who we are and how we came to be. And if you're one of these people, you will push through. It will make sense. Okay? So, I view myself as being born into a captive situation, being born into a cult. Okay? This cult with its little symbols, its mantras, and its dirty little fingers in every aspect of our life. Education, media, politics, the whole lot. Okay? So it was a creation from the religious institutions, and it remains so. A creation, fabrication from priests, right? Using mathematical jargon to bamboozle people. The difference between the formal sciences like mathematics and the natural sciences is the natural sciences take to do with the objective world and the actual substances that exist in the objective world. First and foremost, there's an abundance of water here on Earth. It's a fundamental fact of your existence that bodies of water do not have the ability to conform to the exterior of any shape. You can't have rotundity upon a body of water. You can't have a silhouette of any shape on a body of water. It's always going to be parallel, level, from one point to the other, between the land masses. Okay? They've played on visual perception, how your eyes work, how we actually see, and they've incorporated sophistry to convince you that bodies of water are bending away without flowing, and the wee ships with people on them are sailing over the bendy water that's not flowing anywhere, and they're sticking to it and they're going upside down under the wee plastic ball. Childish crap. You had the same difficulty as a child going through the process of realising that the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus were not real. Now you're an adult and you're clinging to the adult version of Santa Claus. It's fucking embarrassing. Stop it. Why would the light ears? I don't give a fuck. That can be established. Motive is secondary. Just investigate the scene. What can you find out? What can you discern and measure? What holds up to the scientific method? The globe certainly does not. There is nothing, absolutely zero proof for a globe. Nothing about the globe is real. The only thing that's real about the globe is that it exists in a plastic format. A toy. You need to ask yourself why it's plastic. So, just to recap, the people here refuse the globe. I and many others consider themselves to be born captive within a cult. We've been told narratives and stories about the world we live in, its dimensions, the possibilities, where we can go and where we can't go. So there is no model, there is no claim to any straw man here on this platform. It's a very realistic stance of direct realism and logic being applied to the fact that we do not know the full dimensions of where we are. We don't know if it extends beyond, if we are just in a small pocket of a larger area, or whether we are contained within a larger area. Nobody knows any of these things. The push is to make people aware of the issues with the globe, the belief that they hold to be true. If you're an activist or anybody out there who is involved in this, you're duty bound to stick purely to that. It's to falsify and highlight the flaws of the beliefs that people actually have. You're not going to replace it with any other belief, and you're not burdened to replace it with any other belief. It's impossible for any one of us to know the full dimensions of this area. Okay, so we require full exploration. We require human beings as a whole to be looking at this, addressing it, and have hands on deck in order to establish where the fuck we are. Because right now we're being told a false narrative of our existence, which trickles down and dictates the system that we have and the way people live their lives. People are living their lives based on a fundamental lie. And that foundational lie has ideas and concepts built upon it. What life is, what we should do with our life, how we should be as a society, what relationships mean, what your emotions are, you know, the whole aspect of it. You don't even know where you are. You've never established that. So what game are you playing? What is the playing field you are upon? If you've assumed the playing field to be something that it's not, then the chances are you're playing the wrong game. Hope that makes sense. And again, don't come here blaming me. I never asked for this. I never decided, oh, here, you know, I'm just going to refuse the globe for the sake of it and have the whole world against me and put up with all sorts of shite, left, right and centre. That wasn't a choice. That wasn't a choice I made. Okay? Just because I'm intellectually honest and I'm in pursuit of knowing about my existence. And when I addressed the fundamental assumptions that I held, I realised they were on shaky ground, very shaky ground, to the point that within a very short period of time, the whole thing crumbled. And I desperately, now you need to listen, I desperately tried to cling to the globe. I didn't want it to be a lie. Desperately tried to prove it was real. I wanted it to be real. And even through that want, that desire that you could maybe say there would be a bit of confirmation bias, I could find nothing. As soon as it tippled in my mind and I took that stance of direct realism and no putting, you know, any responsibility onto any authority, and I started to assess my reality, the reality became crystal fucking clear. Nothing that we apply and anything in our daily lives would be even possible if you were living on the exterior of a potato rock, zipping through a vacuum, with pressurised air and gas clinging to it, coexisting next to a vacuous, empty space. A vacuum's not a suction. It's not a negative pressure system. There's just nothing there. There's no such thing as nothing. So if you have a low pressure, lower than the pressure we exist in, there's going to be equilibrium happening. That's a fundamental fact of your existence. Go and speak to people in engineering and people that apply this knowledge in everyday fucking life. People that understand how to construct and how to apply these physical properties of the world we're living in. The problem people have is they're throwing all that out, negating it, because of an image on the fucking screen. If I was to show you an image on a screen that defies everyday reality, you're not going to accept it because you know what reality is. So why is it different when it comes to the globe? You have to ask yourself that. Why are people so committed to it? One of the reasons that people are so committed to it is because if they put up with, you know, obsessive, everyday, you know, pounding it into you, that's where you live, from a very small child right into adulthood, with no other possibility of anything else being true. Things like flat earth were placed into you to be ridiculed, and that people back then were retarded for believing it, although the people back then are the people who brought us the tools of navigation that figured these things out. And then at a later date, it was incorporated and twisted to fit a globe. You don't travel with globular maps and globular tools. You travel and navigate and construct with planar tools. That's because you live on a sphere. No. Because you live on a plane. What the full dimensions of that are, we don't know. I can guarantee you, through actual reality and actual practical demonstration, we must exist in a container of some kind. The very fact that we live in air pressure and that it's filled with liquid. What I'm saying is no hairy-fairy nonsense. These are fundamental facts that you can verify or falsify if you like for yourself, if you're no lazy. If you're sitting waiting for some authority, intellectual authority, to tell you what's right and wrong, you're fucked. You have no place in any discussions or even investigating this. You have to apply your own discernment, your own direct realism, and see what you find. So, as I say, that's the stance we have here. We're not interested in any bullshit. We're not here to push fantastical nonsense. We're here to stick purely to facts. So, people talk about the PSYOPs. I'm just going to mention this very quickly. There's a PSYOP going on with this whole flat earth thing, just the same as the PSYOP of the globe. Pushing your cartoon models while playing people off on against each other in so many different factions. Cult of personality, what's popular and what's not popular. It's the very same attributes that they're now trying to impose into this, when the main cult, the main culprit is the globe. Heliocentrism and the pushers of it. Is it any wonder we exist in a society we're living in right now, when people think they're just a random chance that came from nothing? And it all just happened from nothing and nowhere. There's no responsibility to you. You evolved from a singular-celled organism. Your life's determined. There is no responsibility. There is no accountability for any particular individual under that bullshit. But that's what's been sold to people. A false idea. A destructive false idea that negates the very things that are fundamental to a human being's life. So, anyway. as I say, I've been made aware, and I was contacted by Gary John, the chap who organised the UK conference and who appeared on This Morning TV. I've not had a chance to view any of these things, so I'm not going to have any comment right now. But if we have time, once we get through what we're going to get through, I may have a watch at it and comment there and then. Now, Gary contacted me saying if that was going to be the case, he's more than willing to come and have the discussion to give his side of, you know, events and whatever else, which I think is fair, and I encourage that to anybody. The best thing is to confront things out in the open and to have these conversations without hiding from each other and without the bitching and the backstabbing that goes on, the usual stuff with people. All these aspects are destructive, right? So we need to learn to engage head on and hear what it is we want to say. The people get the communications like that break down because people get anxious and emotional because, you know, they're always scared of confrontation. But we can have confrontations and we can discuss things openly and honestly. As long as it's open and honest, then the communication will never break down. Okay, so we'll see how it goes. I don't know how much we're going to get through before that. We just need to play it by ear. So anyway, that's enough of my fucking rambling. Give me 2 seconds. Gav, you're here. Good stuff.
Good evening.
You all right, mate?
Yep, I'm fine, thanks. Cheers.
Nice one. Sorry, I'm just going to acknowledge the people in the chat as well, quick. Just a wee mate. Jonah Worms, how you doing? Jamie Brown, Stephen Watson, Brandon Cook, Tracy Storia, P900 Cool Picks. People check out P900 Cool Picks channel. Has been doing some observations, some long distance observations, which are very good. I highly recommend people check that out. Veracity, Matthew C4, Science Proves It's Flat, Flat Earther, how you doing? Dave Hinkle, how you doing? Beyond Belief, how you doing, mate? I've sent you a message on your YouTube channel. Sandman, how you doing? David Jackson, Anne-Marie Murray, Kawabunga Joe, Magumba, how you doing, mate? Gowron 339, David Holdsworth, Coco, what's that shit? Coco 12, Andy Baldwick, how you doing? Pat Mustard, Flatman, how you doing, mate? John Wick, how you do? Luke Marshall, no probs, P900 Cool Picks. Neil McCrobb, Anne-Marie Murray, Stuart Lundy, how you doing? Rebecca's Way, Andrew Canavan, Daniel Reed. Right, it's nice to see you there, people. Stationary Plane, how you doing, mate? Aye, we'll come back to the chat, but I have a guest.
Yes, you do. Hey, listen, I got that feed as well, the live breakfast TV thing this morning, so might be quite interesting to have a look at it. I haven't had a chance myself either. So.
Well, we'll get through some of the stuff we're going to do here, and we'll play it and we'll have a wee look at it. Yeah. Nice one.
On you go.
Oh, bad, there you go.
I was just going to say, I thought I'd start with a wee quiz. Do you know what Scottish national animal is?
The Scottish national animal?
Aye.
No.
On you go, Google it. I want to see your face while you're Googling it.
That's a joke. Scottish.
I just Google the Scottish national animal. Maybe there's folk in the chat who already know the answer, but you'll be surprised, I think.
Unicorn! Well, actually, I did know that. That's fucking terrible. I didn't realise that. It's on the passports, isn't it? You know, it's chained to the crown. You know, says a lot.
That's right, yeah. Apparently the history of it is that the unicorn and the lion are always fighting each other. They're, you know, eternal enemies. And the English adopted the lion as on their standards. So that's why the Scots adopted the unicorn. But I'm not sure if I believe that version.
What dimension is this happening?
Very good question.
I wouldn't mind watching a unicorn be a lion fight.
Yeah. I just thought it was quite funny, since we do use unicorns to point out fallacies, then we're using Scottish national animal to
a wee subliminal for you, you know.
Absolutely.
So I was in a wee car accident this afternoon, mate, so I didn't get a chance to look at any of these things. Some foreign guy in a rented vehicle went right into the sideways, so
bummer.
Took up all my time, you know.
Car okay? People okay?
I don't know. It looks, I don't know if the water's going to be written off on it. You wait and see.
Okay.
But we'll see how it goes. So I'll let you lead the way here.
Aye, sure. So I remember we hold on, I'll just share my screen here.
I'm just going to stick you on present if you're sharing your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Aye?
Yep.
Just make it a wee bit bigger. But so we were, the last couple of times we've been looking at people's channels and people's videos and, trying to dissect or show discernment and where these people are going wrong. But an equally good source of content is Wikipedia, just to look at it. So I thought if we looked at a few Wikipedia pages about the, how should I say, the standard thought in science, then we can also pick out some of the fallacies and, look at some of the sophistry which is being employed to define words and meanings in such a way that, mathematics can be used as a tool of deceit, as well as one of great practical application. So whilst I am a fan of mathematics, I am very much aware of the capabilities that, people have to do nefarious things with it. Yeah. So, so one of the Wikipedia pages here is something called the level of measurement, which is probably quite apt to the discussions we're having. And immediately what pops to mind is not to be confused with units of measurements or with level sensors, and we might just look into them afterwards. Yeah. But the main thing that I want to say is that, and I'll maybe just preempt what we're going to look at, is that when somebody makes a measurement, or let me start again. So when you think about the scientific method, when you're supposed to make a hypothesis, go out and make experiments and observations to verify your hypothesis, or if it doesn't get verified, use that to refine your hypothesis. So whenever you say, observe something, record something, then you're talking about measuring it in some way, yeah? And this whole definition of what measurement means and what a measure is, and there's a whole science called metrology that is basically the science of measurement. And there's a huge history of mathematics behind it as well. What exactly you can measure, what is possible to be measured, and then what is a measurement and what does it actually mean? So what are you measuring? What's the geometry? What are you assuming? What tools, what instruments, what processes are you using? And all that plays a role. So if somebody says, hey, I've just had an experiment which measured and proved this, this, and this, then you really have to ask yourself, okay, what was he measuring? How was he measuring it? Yeah, and get to the root of those assumptions. And this is what maybe this Wikipedia page and my breakdown of it will help people with. Yeah.
I'll just pipe in. We use these Wikipedia pages just because, they're a kind of common format of, language that people tend to agree upon, and it's, it's a kind of community thing so that we can relate things to each other that we're discussing. And we're not saying Wikipedia is the be all and end all. It's just simply a tool for these purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, it's just to help us make discernments here.
Yeah.
So the current kind of state, funny enough, of measurement has moved a little bit out of the sciences, and it's kind of defined now within the psychologist realm. A guy called Stevens has the best classifications that are widely adopted of scales and measurement, and what he calls is 4 different classes, right? Nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. And that might sound a bit scary, but when you actually go down to look at what this guy's saying, I think it's quite simple, yeah? So I'm going to jump down to this table here. And the first class of measurement is basically whether something belongs to something or not. So you're right, it's either equal to it or it's not equal to it. An example of that would be, Gavin belongs to the, members of men. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't tell me anything quantitatively about me. So it's not telling me anything about size, shape, form, or anything. It's just saying that I belong to a certain group, or
Yeah.
I'm a member of something. So I'm either in it or I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one, and this is very important, is this ordinal one, which is a matter of much contention and much discussion and argument at large, within the scientific community and amongst psychologists, is this idea of comparing something, a kind of ranking or a sorting. And what it goes back to is this idea of whether something is bigger than something or less than something. Yeah. So I can say, for example, I am angrier than you, Dale, at the moment. Yeah. But it would be very difficult for both of us to actually quantify that. Yeah. So ordinal is one of these things where all you're left with, all you can really do is make a comparison and put them in kind of an inequality of some sort. Yeah, basically saying I am bigger than you, I am smaller than you, but you can't say how much it is. Yeah. And this whole thing, ordinal, is now a big focus in mathematics, is basically on probability theory, which gets into all this quantum mechanics stuff. So when they say that something is bigger or smaller than something, then what they can do is draw a probability of it being bigger or smaller, but they can't actually quantify it exactly. Yeah. The next one is the so-called intervals of measure. So where you can find out the differences in things. So that would be, for example, degrees on a compass. I can split a compass up into, 90 degrees, and I can say the degrees of difference between one direction and another one is a certain amount of degrees. Yeah. But so I'm basically just discerning the difference in things. And that's something that you can basically use in geometry, in circles, in astronomical observations, and a lot of visible observations. You look at the intervals, so the angular difference or the angular sizes of something. Yeah. And the very last one is the ratio. So this is the one where you can actually measure exactly how much it is in terms of a ruler, for example. So I can say something is 1 centimeter long, and I can say, good, this other thing is 10 times as big, so it's 10 centimeters. So where I can actually really quantify what is double of the size or what is half the size, so I can really quantify the relationship. So these are the four kind of measurement classifications that you have, or types of measurement that you can do. Yeah. Now you can see that ratio, this bottom one, where we're talking about the physical substances of lengths or magnitudes or things like that, are very much rooted in direct realism, let's say. Yeah, we can actually measure that. Intervals is where you're starting to invisibles, astronomical observations, those kind of things. And ordinal and nominal are very, very dubious, if you ask me, whether they should even be included in a definition of measurement. Yeah.
Oh, the two there that you just referenced last would be more a kind of subjective, assumption based rather than,
Yep, absolutely. So this Wikipedia page goes into a little bit of detail about what nominal level is. Now you can see that, for example, speech, is one of the things that fits into the nominal type. So I can say there are things like nouns and verbs and pronouns, and either a word is a noun or it's not, or it's a verb or it's not. So it belongs to that group, if you like. Yeah. And that's all it can do. It can either belong to that group or it doesn't belong. An example of this would be a fox. You can put a fox in different classifications. Yeah. Now the mathematical operations, we've said all you can really do is say it either is in the group or it isn't in the group. That's all you can really do. The ordinal scale is where it starts to get a little bit, as I say, how should I say, dichotomous, because this is where kind of opinions and consensus is tried to get. So if you if you take part in a consensus or an opinion or some research, then basically you usually get kind of 5 questions. You know, do you agree with this wholeheartedly? A little bit, none, not at all. You know, you get kind of ranges that you can choose. Yeah, but again, it's not an absolute quantified amount. Yeah, there's nothing absolute about it, and it's something that's used very much in that kind of thing, market researches, but also in all the psychological tests that you do. Yeah, so if, for example, you're measuring people's IQ, you would do it with this kind of ranking. So, you know, all you can do, for example, when you measure somebody's IQ is to rank them in terms of each other. You don't get a definitive score, if you like, or a quantity. So these psychrometrics or questionnaires, these are all things that use this ordinal scale. And again, I would question whether that really is measurement as measurement should be defined. I quite like Wikipedia, by the way. They seem to have done an update to something where if you hover on with your mouse, you get little pop-ups. Which I think is quite cool because it saves you jumping from page to page and losing your place.
Exactly. End up with 400 tabs opened at the top.
Yeah, so, and again, I'll just step down through these ones just so that it becomes clearer. So an interval scale, this is one that measures the degrees of differences between things. An example of that would be temperature, right, where we basically take 2 defined points, the freezing and the boiling point of water, and then we separate that into 100 intervals, and then we basically look at the ratios, but they're not meaningful because 20 degrees is not twice as hot as 10 degrees, right? All you're really measuring here is a degree of difference between items according to a graduated scale. And the most important one then is basically the ratio scale, which allows you to really have a comparison of some quantity against some unit that you define to be the unit magnitude. You know, so if you say, whatever, my ruler is 1 centimeter long, then you can go away with your ruler and measure other things in terms of that 1 ruler, or that 1 centimeter in that case, Now, there's, again, as I say, there's quite a huge bunch of debate on this, on whether this is the correct way to define measurement. And it has, you know, huge implications on how we perceive what measure is, what is actually a true measurement of a true value in an experiment. Because depending on the way that measure is defined, it's going to have a huge, how should I say, impact on the meaning that you interpret from it. I'm going to try and make this a little bit more clear. So, for example, when I assume a spherical Earth and I say to myself, okay, I'm going to define straight lines as being the great circles on a sphere, then because of that very definition that I'm making, I also have to measure in terms of great circles or in terms of arc segments. If I take the assumption that it's a flat plane and I can use a straight ruler to measure things, then that's a completely different assumption from the spherical one. And it also means that I use a different measure, I use different instruments, and I use a different process to measure it. So you can see that measurement depends on the purpose of what it is you're actually asking. So if I'm asking the question, what is the shape of the Earth? It really also dictates how my measurement is going to be and how I define my measurement. So what I'm trying to say here, and I don't want to explode people's heads with too much theory, but you need to be very careful that when people say I measure this and that, and my measurements say that this and this is true, then you really have to be very discerning about what were the person's assumptions when he was making that measurement, which geometry did he believe in, or assume, so that, because these things play a role then in how the conclusions are interpreted. And that's this play on words at the end of the day then, you know, depending on your terms of reference and the sophistry that you use to present your conclusion, that's where people can be very easily brainwashed. Yeah. So there's a couple of other things in this that I'm not entirely sure how deep I should go here, Del. Maybe I'm just pointing out to people that these are Wikipedia links that they might want to look at.
Yeah.
There's obviously tie-ins to various other kind of things, and let me just pull up another page where we go then into the units. So not to be confused with the level of measurement or scale of measure, we now look at the units of measurement. So a unit of measurement is basically when you take a quantity that is adopted by convention or by law that is then used as a standard for measurement of the same kind of quantity.
Yeah.
So people have now defined the meter to be, the length of something, and that's the way we measure things now in meters, or generally speaking, in most countries. And all these weights and measures are standardized across multiple nations and countries. Again, we have everybody collaborating, and not fighting around standard weights and measures. And all these systems of units are basically being defined at an international level that, as far as I can see, are implicit in the deception. Because without that definition of measurement and that, how should I say, agreement, you wouldn't be able to make up the stories that they make up, and you wouldn't be able to tell the stories worldwide if you didn't have that international agreement. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of, how should I say, implicit working in those standards here of weights and measures, or in the science of metrology, that is trying to, how should I say, have these globally developed and internationally accepted units. Now, in the old days, if I had a sack of rice and I wanted to sell it to somebody, then I would usually stop at the toll booth of the city that I was going to, where I was going to sell my merchandise. And in that toll booth, the city itself would have a grain of corn, a sack of corn. And they would define that as the town sack of corn against which everything else got measured. So if you came with your sack, they'd put the two sacks next to each other, and you would then, that would be weighed and measured, and you would be paid according to the value of the town sack.
Yeah.
Now all that's gone, so there is no weighting according to substances like corn or rice or whatever it is, copper, tin, metal. Now we have this abstraction to mass and units and standardized units, which, if you like, is obfuscating that tie-in that measurement should have to natural substances.
Yeah.
And this page again is, has a lot of information about how that is done, and how I think it's something that always needs to be looked at. So basically, this boils down to how certain ratios are basically hidden within units and measures. And basically all we're doing is expressing the relation between one number to another number, but we're hiding it very cleverly in all these units and definitions of measurements so that it's removed completely from the substances that we're talking about. It becomes all very abstract. Yeah, so that was basically, I don't want to jump into all these pages in too much detail because, it might just bore people rigid, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But
if it's not attached to a substance, you're measuring nothing, pretty much.
That's right.
So
that's right. It's made up stuff.
Which is why, when we say the luminaries, they're just an observation. They're just they're not tangible. There is no unit of measurement attached to it because you don't know what it is you're looking at.
Yep, absolutely. And visibles are basically always measured in degrees of difference. So that interval, you can't go out and measure a luminary with a ruler, right? Yeah. All you can do is measure it according to an angular difference that you can see, using visible.
Yeah. And that's it, though. I mean, you still have to assume what it is.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of flicking through this page to see if there's something that I should address. I think one of the things that I did want to address was, this was quite funny. So, a list of humorous units of measurement. Many people have made use or invented units of measurement for their humor value. So there's a few in here that are definitely worth a laugh. There's the one, a Sagan car from a tribute to Carl Sagan, which is supposed to be something that's technically 4 billion of something.
Millions, millions, millions.
There's a Mickey. They're definitely taking the Mickey out of us. There's one down here called a Garn, which I thought was quite funny. Hold on, I need to get to this. Where the hell was it? There it is. Seasickness, Garn. The Garn is a unit used by NASA to measure seasickness and travel sickness caused by space adaptation syndrome. Named after a senator who was frequently sick during tests. Yeah. A score of 1 Garn means the sufferer is completely incapacitated. So I guess they're just making that up to make it sound more plausible, probably, you know, making up these wee stories. The other thing I wanted to pull back onto is this wonderful theorem here. Now, I don't know if people know this Theorema Egregium. Now, it basically means the remarkable theorem, which is a great name to give something, right? And what this theorem says is that you can determine the curvature of a surface from measurements made entirely on the surface, so that it is absolutely independent of whether the surface is embedded in a 3-dimensional Euclidean space or not. Now, Gauss called this theorem remarkable, and one of the reason he had to call it remarkable was that he started out with the premise that his surface was embedded in a 3-dimensional space, to then go on to prove that he didn't have to measure or know anything about the extrinsic space, and all he needed to do was measure stuff on the surface. Yeah. And that's why he called it remarkable. I would prefer to give the name bullshit to this theory, right? And I'm being an absolute heretic here because Gauss is revered as one of the prince of mathematicians, right? Yeah. But as far as I can see, what this man did was basically make up this mathematical sophistry to equate 2-dimensional spherical geometry with a 3-dimensional physical ball. Yes. So you've heard me saying this before, that when you look at the geometry of a spherical surface and that of a 3-dimensional ball, the geometries are absolutely similar. You can hardly tell them apart. But a spherical surface is really only a 2-dimensional object, mathematical object. You have to imagine it being unnecessarily, it doesn't need to be in a 3-dimensional space. It can exist for a mathematician without actually being in a 3-dimensional space. So if you think about a 2-dimensional surface, then there's no difference between that and a planar geometry. You've heard me talking about this before. I think that planar geometry and spherical geometry are just two different forms of the same thing. They're both 2-dimensional geometries, but you just have different definitions of straight lines. Yeah. But what Gauss did was basically manage to equate that whole thing to being a 3-dimensional ball that actually is then floating in a vacuum of space. Yeah. So that's where, if you like, the deception was taking 2-dimensional geometry and pretending it was really applicable to a 3-dimensional ball. Yeah. In simplified terms. And this is also, it's quite an eye-opener, again, for anybody mathematically inclined, what the guy is saying. Again, I don't want to go into it in too much details, but it has so many applications to map projections, to the way that we do everything in terms of the geometry of surfaces, and that means all kinds of mapping and navigation and everything that we do when we look at things astronomical.
Yeah.
And the thing that ties into that one is then his very basic definition of curvature. And again, I'm not going to get into the maths here, because I always think it's enough to look at the basic assumptions behind it. Yeah. You don't need to worry about the maths, people. You'll see the fallacies already at the beginning. Yeah. That's where the problems lie in all these things. And it even says it here, you know, intuitively, curvature is the amount by which a geometric object, such as a surface, deviates from being a flat plane, yeah, or a curve from being straight, yeah, as in the case of a line. But this is defined in different ways depending on the context. There is a distinction between extrinsic curvature and intrinsic curvature. And this, you know, how should I say, artificial difference that these guys made in their mathematics allows them to get away with talking about a 3-ball as 2-dimensional mathematics and the other way around, so that they can go easily between planar geometry, spherical geometry, and making us believe that that is what is on a physical 3-dimensional ball, yeah, and that all these things are the same. And they're basically just doing it by redefining the difference in mathematical definitions. Yeah. There's one, if I find the word geodesic, there's actually quite a good lookup for that. Where the hell was it? Sorry, just bear with me for a sec while I find it. So Mr. Riemann. So geodesic, if you see this little pop-up here, geodesic is a generalization of the notion of a straight line to curved spaces. And basically what it does is it redefines a straight line on a plane to be the great circle on a sphere. Yeah. And that's all it's really doing. It's a change in mathematical definition of the geometry. And when you do that, then you can basically go on to interpret what you mean in terms of spherical geometry. All your calculations will be correct. They'll be exactly the same as planar geometry, because the actual equations are based on the definitions, and you've changed the definitions, right? So you can continue to tell stories, let's say, right? I mean, it's as simple as that, right? You're assigning different words and meanings to the assumptions that you're making, and then you're interpreting your conclusions based on these new definitions. Yeah. So, you know, this whole idea of changing a straight line to a curved line or to a great circle is basically the whole of science of geodesy, where people say that they are measuring the size and shape of the Earth using all these geodetic surveys. Yeah. And that whole science is rooted in this basic assumption of going from planar geometry to spherical geometry by changing the definition of a straight line. Yeah. And that's what I mean from my introduction when we were talking about the different levels of measurement, that you need to be very careful that when you're looking at the degrees of difference or the magnitude of something, then it depends very much on which geometry you've assumed. Yeah. Because if you've assumed a straight line, or if you've assumed a great circle or an arc segment of a great circle, then you've got two very different ways of measuring things. Yeah. And if you're not taking that properly into account, then you're making, you know, fallacies. You're making wrong judgments. Yeah. Good. I don't want people to lose the will to live just because I like mathematics. So I'll maybe just stop it at this point.
Oh, yeah. Much appreciated. I mean, it's part of the learning and understanding. As I say, I'm no mathematician either, so it's learning for me at the same time. So I think it's important for people to have, you know, other tools in their armory, you know. And that's it, you know, everybody's got their own place expertise, and that just happens to be yours. So I'm more than happy to have you representing that.
I'm more happy to do my best to show it, to show what's going on.
I'll just be the understudy for that, you know.
Yep. I mean, there's just so much of that. I mean, we talk about it so often, you know, how words and sophistry and how rhetoric is used to bamboozle us. And what I'm trying to make clear is that it's very, very deeply rooted in mathematics, that same kind of sophistry. Not because mathematics is an inexact science, but just because depending on those assumptions and axioms that you make, you are going to be telling a different story at the end of the day. And your measurements are going to be different. So anybody who comes to you and says mathematics is a proof of why we live on a sphere, you can immediately tell them, no, it's bullshit. I mean, you say it all the time, the difference between natural science and formal science. And what I'm doing here is just trying to go a little bit deeper and show people exactly where that, how should I say, sophistry is. Yeah.
And that's it, you know, just I'll reiterate that, you know, math is, as far as applying it to substance-based and objective reality, is an excellent tool, you know, a valuable tool. But as you point out, you know, it can be used to extrapolate and go into abstract. It has no relation to, you know, objective reality, substance-based reality. So it's got to be done, mate. Yeah.
Well, I think these are the two things, the two key take-home messages are these difference between measuring degrees for visibles and measuring real magnitudes for tangibles. And the other one is this misuse of ordinal, where they try to apply mathematical reasoning to things that are only capable of being grouped into something that is bigger or smaller. And that's where they use probability. So they use probability and statistics to try and mathematically measure these comparisons. But then you're actually not capable of doing it, because me saying to you, hey, Del, you know, I'm twice as happy as you today, you know, it means nothing, right? It's, you know, we can come up with some statistics as to why that might be true, but we could never measure it, right? And that's where they misuse mathematics and that whole quantum probability bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where they're, you know, these are the three kind of places where, you know, I would always point to measurement being very easily misused, abused, misinterpreted, and not properly defined. And when that happens, you can't really talk to anybody about the results of an experiment, because you don't know how he's actually defined it, and you don't exactly know what he's actually meaning by it. You know what I mean? It can be kind of complex what I'm saying, but I'm trying to break it down to be really simple. But
well,
maybe I hope I'm doing a good job.
Of course you are, mate. It's you know, it's the same as everything else, just repetition of these things and pointing it out continually. Eventually, it will set in. You know, I'm speaking for me, so I'm pretty sure it's the same for many other people. You know. To see, I have the overview and I understand the overview, but getting in depth and an expertise level, then that's something for you, and I need to learn. You know. So.
Yep. It's basically simple. At the end of the day, mathematics is not a proof of, you know, physical measurement, you know, or the shape of this earth. So nobody can bring mathematics and say the mathematics proves it. Oh, look. But we've navigated, oh, we've got GPS, oh, all our equations work, you know, all these things, just because they have, you know, approximate descriptions of what is happening, it doesn't make them true, because these things are all defined, you know, and a definition can neither be true nor false. It's just that, it's a definition, yeah. So to find out whether something's true or false, we actually need to go out into the physical world and do something, yeah.
Sorry about that, mate. I just had to. Aye, spot on, mate. Cheers for
that. Right. Well, we'll knock that in the head then. That'll be enough for most folk.
That's just, as you say, it's just more clarity on, you know, me always saying there's a difference between substance-based, you know, science and language-based, you know, and it has to be understood. So, again, I appreciate it, mate.
Yep, so all I can say is everybody listen to Dale. He's absolutely correct. There is a difference, and it needs to be known by people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't let them get away with it when they come with that bullshit, with that argument about mathematics, or get browbeaten into thinking, oh, I don't know mathematics, so I can't discuss it with them. So, okay, you win, Because I know that can be difficult, because it can be very, I don't know, overbearing or powerful or seemingly powerful, the argument. But it's not.
No.
I think that's what we need to try and boil it down to. Huh?
Exactly. And it's never, it can get as intellectual as it likes. It's never going to stand up to practical demonstration and show me bendy fucking bodies of water. I mean, people can get it at that level and commit and stick to that because they know that to be true.
Yep.
As for other people who are trying to pursue a deeper level understanding, then what you're offering is hugely important, hugely relevant to that.
Yep. So, I mean, I'd love to have these discussions with anybody who thinks he knows what he's talking about, or in terms of mathematics. And all I can say is, again, people look really, really closely at the basic assumptions. Don't look at the equations where it gets all fancy and symbolic. And, there's no need to go there. Yeah, you just have to pull them back to, well, what is it you're actually assuming in your mathematics? What are your axioms? What are your assumptions?
Yeah.
And if you pull them back to that, they haven't got a leg to stand on, because mathematics doesn't provide proof.
Yeah.
It's a descriptive language, and that's all it is. Yeah.
Exactly, mate. Excellent. So, well, if we're moving on, there's a couple of other wee things I just want to bring up. This kind of been brought to my attention. I thought maybe we'd have a wee discussion on that. I'm not going to say any names, the message from, let me just have a wee check at this. And it's pretty much to do with the experience of this and the burdens that kind of come with it in regards to, personal relations, whether it be family or whatever it may be. And I know some people maybe feel isolated and lonely in regard to that aspect. So just want to talk about it. Just let me look here. Aye, so I mean, it's basically, people feeling alienated. The first thing I have to say is, for me personally, you feel alienated and you feel lonely and disheartened, because you have to look at yourself first and foremost. If I place any importance or relevance on what other people think of me, or whether I require to be accepted within certain kind of social groups, whatever it may be, then I'm setting myself up for that. Those are the rules that I'm setting out for me. And if then things, complications come about where people are showing disgust or intolerance or anger or whatever it may be towards you for discussing any of these topics, then of course you're going to be affected by that. So it always comes back to you, and you take responsibility for that. Don't set yourself up for it. You have to be in a position, and I know, it's easy for me saying it because that's the life I've led. I don't require anybody's acceptance. I don't expect anything from anybody. I don't need any external human being to feel complete within myself. So it's easy for me to talk about taboo subjects, to tell them that they are Snow Globe, because I really don't give a fuck what they think about me. If I placed any importance on what these people thought of me, then I'm going to be hurt, and I'm going to start feeling isolated and start having self-doubt. So, anybody who's experienced any of that, you have to look inwards and look at yourself first and foremost. I know you hear these mantras that human beings are social creatures and we want to be accepted. Well, I don't fit into that fucking category, and I don't think you should allow yourself to be pigeonholed into that either, because again, you're setting yourself up for it. If you're feeling like you require other people to be accepted, you have a real issue as far as I'm concerned. And if you're having difficulty speaking to close relatives or associates, and you're encountering these problems, this is why I always say to people, look, if you want to get it off your chest, go and speak to strangers. Just randomly speak to a stranger on the street or wherever it may be, where there's no preconceived ideas about who you are and who they think your personality is in regards to previous, encounters and events. It's a much easier process. Or, find a place like this where you can communicate with people who are at that same level. If you're going to continue to engage with people that are not at that level and you're expecting something from them, you're asking for fucking trouble. I really don't know what else I can say about that. I know it sounds harsh, but it really does fall back at the individual's feet. what you expect and what you put out there, you are then subject to those rules and conditions that you're setting for yourself. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if you get anything to say about that, Gav. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, no, it makes perfect sense to me what you're saying, Dale. You know what I mean? I know there is that difference, and you know, a lot of people find it very difficult within the family to speak about things, you know, because of that very fact that, you know, everybody's so close. I mean, I can even see it in a small, and I remember in a small way in my own, you know, circle, and this nothing to do with the flat earth, but I remember that the very first time I wanted to play guitar, it was a lot easier doing it with strangers than it was doing it in front of my mum and dad, you know?
Exactly.
But once you did it once in front of your mum and dad, it was very easy to do it in front of strangers. So it does help, but it's a huge hurdle just because you have that, you know, familiarity and you know. So I suppose it covers any topic, I think, and this one in particular.
Aye, and it also comes down to committing to what you know for yourself, and that committing and trusting your own discernment and your own common sense is grounds for you to be strong, you know. If you're not committed and you're unsure, then you're going to start wavering and have other emotional reactions on top of that. So
yep,
there's a couple of aspects to it, you know, and just as you say, it's a great example. You know, you play in front of strangers, you get your confidence, you're sure of yourself, and then you can go and play in front of your mum and dad because you're not scared of you know, making an arse of yourself or whatever these delusions are within people's minds, you know.
Yep, no, absolutely. I think that's has a lot to do with confidence, you know. I think, you know, confidence breeds, you know, the better you get at things, the more confidence you get, and the more confidence you have, the easier it is to get better at things, you know. So it is a kind of, you know, upward spiral. And it's the same with this topic, I feel, you know, the more you learn, for example, about the heliocentric model and you're able to pick it apart where the fallacies are, the more confident you become in your own knowing, and then if you start trusting your common sense, then you get even more confident, and then, you know, all these things spiral up to you for you to be a great proponent of the flat earth, let's call it, right, or against the globe, because you're very secure in what you know, and you can see the bullshit and you can call it out as that. So
you can articulate it and represent it properly, which again, you know, is probably leading into what we're saying. For me, there's a huge responsibility for people to be equipped with that, especially when you're engaging with new people or even further into like the mainstream narrative and getting wide exposure. For me, that initial contact, that initial thing that people are hearing is hugely important for me, because, you know, people will say, well, it's progress anyway, but for me, you know, and that's another aspect of this, is impatience and people feeling burnt out because they want it to, you know, evolve quicker. I forgot what I was doing with that.
No, but I think I know where you were going with that. So, you know, I'm very skeptical about, you know, this exposing it now larger and larger and larger. It should not be taken absolutely as a good thing, right? Because if the people who this information is getting exposed to don't have the necessary tools, they're not empowered, they don't have that confidence and background to understand those arguments properly, then they can still be easily deceived and led into, you know, other bullshit theories. So, you know, I think it's hugely important, even if my topic, mathematics, is not, you know, good for everybody, that we empower the people to think correctly, so that whatever bullshit comes up, Dale, they're going to see through it, right? Because I still worry about that. You know, this public exposure, breakfast TV this morning, you know, are the correct messages being given out? Or is it just going to make it worse because the people don't have the tools of discernment properly? Do you know what I mean?
Well, my two concerns in regards to that would be, you know, just, you know, putting out a kind of hypothesis, whatever you want, you know, an idea of what I could see possibly happening. You know, I could look at a scenario of an agenda to bring about in a way where it's ridiculed and they try to sweep it under the carpet. So you could then have, you know, agent provocateurs who are going to be these faces that are going to appear up in order to take it in that avenue. Or the other scenario is that there's an unravelling, but they want to offer us a new paradigm that is another falsity, another lie. So you're still going to have certain characters to play out the game, so that certain characters are going to get exposure while other characters are are pushed under the carpet, if you like.
Yeah.
So that information is not getting to the wider populace, because people have to remember right now the majority of the population are in total ignorance. So their initial contact with us is going to be huge. It's going to impact the direction that they go, what they're looking at, what they think about it. And for me, there's a huge responsibility there with that. And I'm always very weary of these things. You know, people will say it's egotistical, but I only trust myself to represent what I know. You know, I don't like the idea that there's other people representing something that I'm involved in, especially when I feel they don't represent it the way I think it should be represented. People can say that's just subjective or whatever, but for me, I don't think so. I think, just as we're pointing out, in any discussion, you have to understand definitions, what we're actually speaking about, the sciences, what applies, what doesn't apply, and then enter into the conversation. Not just enter into the conversation under these assumptions that are just left up there. It's a globe and it's a pizza dish, and they represent that and they represent that, and that seems to be the conversation that people are experiencing when it's not the case. You know.
Yep. Well, I'm 100% with you on that. You know, I can again only do the same thing. You know, want to represent what I think is happening. You know, for myself, and I don't want to be lumped into a group of people that say, "Ah, right, you know, I'm a flat earther and I believe in this." And anybody who is not getting down to those very basic terms of definitions, looking at what are the first principles of a conversation, what are these differences in sciences. If you're not having that conversation to begin with, and you're not empowering the people to be on that level with you, then having a conversation with them is not going to work, or it's going to lead them into, you know, if you don't have it, into believing the next fantasy that comes along, you know. And that's what I'm worried about. Absolutely.
The conversations will just jump from one thing to the other without any real resolve and any real understanding of what's just been said. Conversations just seem to run ahead of themselves without each individual point being addressed and agreed upon and put to bed. So, you know, they're my reservations. And at the same time, people will say, well, exposure's exposure. You know, fair enough. You know, I see that. You know, any publicity is good publicity, as the saying goes. But in this aspect, I don't think so. I think publicity, getting the awareness to a wider populace that this question is being asked is good, but then how it's represented after that is what's important to me.
Exactly, there's the two aspects. What's the message that they're saying, and how equipped are the people to deal and interpret the message properly? Yeah, and exactly. on both aspects, I have a problem or a worry, at least, that, you know, that it's been done correctly. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the message is definitely going to be. I mean, they've bullshitted us all my fucking life, so they're not going to stop now.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that one's a given, if you ask me, if it's mainstream. And the other one, whether people are equipped, unfortunately not. You know, if I look at the education system, and we've looked at a few of them with Mickey Mouse hats, you know, these people are not equipped at the moment to actually understand where the problem lies, you know, so, yeah.
Exactly. So that's it, and for me, it's about having it refined to a point of brutality, you know, where what I'm saying, and anybody can come and refute exactly what I'm saying about in regards to your position. And as I keep saying, the position for me is, you know, this loaded term of flat brings about so many problems. That's why they continually throw that straw man there. You know, if you're addressing anybody in this conversation, you should be addressing it from the realistic stance, which is, you know, you're not making any claims to what it is. You're focusing purely on this claim of the globe, and then continuing the conversation from there. You know, if you allow them to throw in the straw mans, it automatically in people's minds they have this dichotomy of the cartoon globe, the cartoon flat, and that these are just people having a debate. You know, and the majority of people feel as if they're on the winning side, which is the globe, and it's just a big fucking soap opera. You know, when really there is no two sides. There only is one reality, and that's it. So,
and that's what we should be discussing together. Yep, and finding out more about. Absolutely.
Exactly. So, we'll have a wee pull up of this video. I'm going to have to find one, actually. Just bear with me.
Aye, you are. I'll be back in 1 sec.
Cool. So as I say, while I'm looking for this, I'll just continue to chat about what it's like to be in these positions, and And of course, you know, I can hugely sympathise and empathise with anybody who's in this position of representing this awareness, if you like, and what comes with that. But as I say, I learned a long time ago that I was destroying myself because of my expectations of other people, my want to be accepted, my want to accept them and for them to accept me and to be part of some sort of community. And I'm not taking that away from people, that may be intrinsic within certain people's natures, if you want to call it. But in this dysfunctional idea that we're existing in, it's just not real, because what kind of interaction and real relations are you having with people based on, you know, fallacies, ideas, concepts in their mind? It's meaningless. So for me, I have no issue. I don't give a fucking monkeys what anybody thinks of me, whether they like me, they want to accept me, they want to hate me. I don't give a fuck. You know, all I can focus on is me, and that's where my responsibility is. And that's the same for every single one of you. So, as I say, and if you can do that, stand as an individual and represent the common purpose, and each one of your common purposes, the position, the predicament we are in, you know, in regards to where we are and who we are and what's been told to us. So, right, I've got this here. Hang on, I'll check and see if that's one. P900, you sent this one a comment. Have you seen this from this morning? Hopefully this is it. Oh, that's a Facebook one. We'll see if I
just caught this.
I'll see if I can get it. Just bear with me here, people. I'm looking for an appearance on mainstream TV. If I go to subscriptions, I'm sure somebody's going to have shared it somewhere, hopefully. Oh, there we go. So this is, what are you saying here? Right, this first one I'm finding in this channel that's mirrored this is Maika's Place, so I hope Maika's Place is no issue with me screen sharing this. Obviously it's fair use, commentary, educational purposes and all that shenanigans. Right.
Is this the breakfast TV show thing, is it?
This is a breakfast TV
good.
thing. Right, just bear with me, I've got a wee screen share happening here. Right. I should be sharing all right, Gav, am I sharing?
Aye, I can see it.
Right, okay. So the men who claim the earth is flat.
We didn't land on the moon, gravity doesn't exist, and the earth is flat. Just a few of the extraordinary claims of the men and women who call themselves the flat earthers.
So what else do we believe that they say just isn't true? Three people that would go to the end of the earth, whatever shape it is, to prove their theory are Gary Heather, Darren Nesbitt, and Martin Kenny. And welcome, gentlemen. Nice to see you. Well, you know, there's lots to get through here. The earth is flat. Why do you say that?
The evidence that we've seen doesn't.
So, you know, right there, this is, you know, for me, where I would be correcting Philip Schofield and saying, you know, hang on a minute, Philip, you know, I'm addressing the claim, which is a globe, and I'm going to tell you that the globe's not real. Because what flat earth do you have to represent? You don't have one.
Exactly. We're talking here about refuting claims, not about bringing other hypotheses or fantasies to the table here.
Suggests that what we've been told is true.
What evidence have you seen?
Well, I personally have been to Lake Balaton with FE Core, and we've actually done a laser test.
And again, here, you know, I'm just going to keep piping in. I would be saying, well, you know, before I go to, you know, laser tests and all that shenanigans, I'd be saying, well, there's absolutely no measurable proof that the Earth's a sphere.
Absolutely. And there's actually no need to measure the levelness of water with a laser, since that would be the very definition of level using fluid mechanics, yeah?
And people who say, well, you've not measured water to find it. Well, you know, every fucking instrument that you have, from a cup and a vase in your your kitchen to a syringe. You know, they have markers on them to denote exactly how much liquid is going to be in it, because it's a fundamental fact of your existence that the liquids seek the level. So, you know, it's applied everywhere. You know, the water is the measuring tool.
Yep.
Test from one end of the lake to the, well, didn't do the full lake because it's massive, but we did a 12-kilometre test, and we could actually see the laser from one end to the other. And since then, the guys have actually produced a 40-kilometre laser test.
So this guy with a laser debunks all the pictures.
See, this is what I'm saying now. He's appealing to ridicule here now and absurdity. You know, suggesting that one guy with a laser is going to, and obviously he's going to say debunk the whole of science and whatever else he's going to say.
Yeah.
You know, again, the communication's already breaking down. It's not allowing him to start his ridicule and his absurd nonsense because the conversation is a way off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, and that's where it's you know, vastly important that people understand what these logical fallacies are, right? An appeal to authority is not destroying any argument. You know, we should be looking at the argument and the content of the argument, and he shouldn't be allowed to use those fallacies.
Exactly, and I think there's a psychological fallacy in itself here, just as you say, with authority, because, you know, for the majority of people, you know, I'm just generalising here, I know that I'm doing that, but going on to a mainstream TV, for me, there would be a psychological tendency to be bowing to the authority, to allow the TV presenters to somehow dictate the conversation. Whereas for me, I don't have any respect for these people. It means absolutely fuck all to me. Philip Schofield's just a man. You know, it's just a space and a room, the same as anything else. He's not going to dictate to me how any conversation goes.
Absolutely. You know, I think that's where people still have reverence, right, for TV personalities or people that have more money, or, you know, whatever form of power that you think these people have, and it's nonsense. It's still two men who both have to sit down to take a shit, right? So there shouldn't be any of that at all in the room to begin with. It's two normal sentient beings having a discussion. But he's already, you know, getting up on the high hill. Yeah.
Exactly.
Pictures, all that we've got live pictures now from the space station, which we'll come to in a moment, because you say that also.
You can clearly see the curve of
there's the curve. All of the things that we now are led to believe. One guy with a laser, and you say the Earth is flat.
No, it's not. That's the only thing. It's just an example of.
See, again, you know, Philip Schofield has invoked the we've got pictures and we've got images, you know, so then your rebuttal to him should be, well, would you accept an image or a video as measurable scientific proof of anything, especially when it's something you have no way of falsifying or verifying for yourself?
Exactly, and that's a perfectly valid refutation to give to his, you know, appeal to imagery. And that's where I think the conversation has to be pointed out to immediately, stopped, so that everybody gets back to a level playing field. But allowing it to continue, I don't think is a clever move.
No.
Some of the experiments.
So, Darren, you were sceptical at first, weren't you? So
I think it's right to be sceptical.
So again, you know, just to point out, there's been no clarity had here. It's just left as two confusing opposers with conflicting views about nothing that's been resolved, really. And now we're on to the next guy. You know?
Yeah, I would even say that the guy who appealed to authority has probably won. For most people viewing this are going to retain that part rather than what the first guy tried to say. And I'm not saying that he's not being, you know, truthful in his intention to try and, you know, bring this to light, but I don't think he's won that part of the discussion, if you know what I mean. It's left, as you say, in confusion rather than anything else.
Because Philip Schofield's played the manipulative game, you know. We have all these pictures and videos and one guy with a laser, so he's trying to ridicule it, you know.
Yep.
About alternative views, but what we never are is sceptical about the mainstream view that we're told since we're children, over and over again. It's programmed.
And again, there's no laying out here about it being a scientific discussion and the subdivisions of science. Again, the languages, as we've just highlighted, defining terminology and what we're actually engaging in here. Again, it's just left up there in the air. These underlying assumptions that there's this you know, cartoon globe and this cartoon flat that each side is representing.
Yep.
So what finally convinced you then?
Well, it took me 6 months. I was sceptical for the first 6 months. And there are a couple of main things. One is water always finds level. So in our own experience in natural physics, you have a cup of tea or a swimming pool or a lake, water is level. But we're led to believe that, the Earth is supposed to be 70% water. So at some point, water starts curving around a ball. Now, obviously, the answer to that is the magic of gravity.
Yeah.
Now, I believe gravity exists.
See, he's offering them a way out here rather than just hammering that point home, you know, because regardless of the word gravity or anybody invoking the word gravity, the physical substance, as he's just pointed out, totally disproves the globe right there and then.
And it's not capable of it. So, you know, it's not capable of retaining that shape or form in any way. So how can, whether you discuss now whether gravity is a cause or an effect, is a completely different discussion. You know, it's, again, for me, it's a misrepresentation of what the actual question should be. Yeah.
And again,
whether intentional or accidental, you know.
And you're offering them, you know, a leg, because at the end of the day, I've said so many times, why things fall or the way the things fall has got absolutely nothing to do with establishing the dimensions, the shape of the Earth. Absolutely nothing to do with it. So it shouldn't even be bringing it up. You know, just, you know, don't invoke these words, let them invoke them, and always maintain the strong position of letting them make the claims or the assumptions.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
I like to be sceptical about alternatives program for the first 6 months. You have up to 70% water.
Yeah.
Now, I believe gravity exists, but only as an effect, not as a cause. So science itself has never proven gravity as a force itself. What is proven is 9.8 meters.
Right, so there you go. He is highlighting that. It's just that it's kind of jumbled up. That you know, describing the way things fall is not establishing the cause, which is pretty much the reality of the situation we're in.
Yeah, good on him. Yeah, I just think you should bring it right up and hammer the point home. Yeah.
This 9.8 meters per second squared is the near constant rate of acceleration towards all over the Earth.
What is happening here?
That's what I'm saying. We don't know, and science has never proven that as a force. Obviously, they have proven it.
And again, you know, I just be pointing out Philip. Well, Philip, dropping inanimate objects doesn't provide measurement of the shape of the Earth. Simple as that. Stop acting like a moron.
Is observed science.
Sorry, mate, you going to say something?
I'm just going to say, unfortunately, that's the level of the conditioning that people have, though, isn't it?
It's part of the cult, the mantras that they've pushed out there. Oh, just ridicule. Look, jump off a bridge. Look, I'm dropping something. Gravity. You know, these are just the mantras that have been pushed to the gullible masses that they regurgitate and repeat with conviction. Although it's absolute fucking lunacy.
Yep, and I mean, you know, we just highlighted it in the beginning of this hangout, Del. Gravity is the measure of an equipotential surface, right? And we've just talked about these different geometrical definitions. So you can already see that, you know, he's taking the, how should I say, the common sense version of gravity, or what everybody believes is the common sense version to take, not understanding the underlying geometrical mathematical trickery, let's just call it, for what it is, that's went into it. He's getting the dumbed down common man version of it and believing it wholeheartedly.
Exactly.
It's that things accelerate at the same rate. Yeah, but
And that we're stuck to the ground.
nobody knows what is actually causing it, and scientists themselves will tell you.
So Sir Isaac Newton.
And Del, just one thing I want to pull up there. You know, I know we sometimes hack away at, you know, the wee men like Philip, but I really do want to pull up the fucking scientists as well, because they really should know fucking better. What I'm doing, right, for my, you know, background expertise, dissecting the way mathematics is being misused, should be obvious to mathematicians and physicists and men of science and education and academia. So, you know, I want to hammer this point home, that I find them even more responsible for the fucking mess we're in than guys like Philip, who maybe thinks he's just pulling down a job. Do you know what I mean?
They're just reading the video printer and being told what to say and how to respond anyway. You know, so I don't even hold him accountable really. Well, his ignorance has to be held accountable for that, because at the end of the day, he's contributing to infecting the masses with utter fucking jobby.
Yep.
So you know, he has a responsibility, but at the same time, I don't think it lies solely at his feet. No.
Yes, I mean, why I'm pointing out the scientists is also you can see the argument of this guy Darren, you know, where he's saying scientists. So even on the flat earth side of the argument, people are relying on scientists, yeah? So you know, we have to rely on scientists to get to the bottom of the bullshit and discern the truth properly. Because if everybody's relying on them, then they've got a fucking proper job to do, and that's find out the truth and tell it.
Yeah, but as I say, the individual still has a duty for themselves to understand things at a level where they can, you know, place that onto these other people and still have the ability to discern and highlight where the deceptions may be coming, if any.
Absolutely, I agree. Right.
And now we're getting, you know, Holly, who's just invoking another appeal to authority, this nonsense of, oh, Isaac Newton, and so, you know, a couple of men have just debunked Isaac Newton. Well, whatever, Holly, you know.
Did he just get that completely wrong?
Well, I don't think he particularly got it wrong. I think we're told a lot of truths, but possibly not full truths.
But why? Why has somebody decided to make up a load of stuff? What would be the benefit of them doing that?
Well, it's difficult to say because I don't know. I don't know why.
Here we go, jump into the motive again so quick, yeah? We haven't really fully analysed the crime scene yet, and taken in all the evidence, and we're off in motive hunting.
Yeah, and it's a very simple rebuttal, you know, just to keep it simple and to the point, you know. Motive is secondary. That's, you know, it doesn't negate from looking at the facts, as you say, of the crime scene, you know.
I do. What I do know is what I can test, what I can observe, and what I can come to using the resources that I have. So I know for a fact, after 2 years of research, that I'm not upside down ever. I'm not spinning. Water seeks to find its level, etc., etc. But I know that as a fact.
Isn't that like the childhood thing where you go to Australia? How come I'm still stuck to the earth? I'm standing on my head. I mean, how
absolutely. It is an empty.
Exactly. That is childish, Philip, to have a belief like that. It's absolutely fucking absurd, mate.
Yeah.
So Philip's trying to use it like it's a childish way of looking at it, that you're upside down, but that's a fucking reality, Philip. You know, somebody 180 degrees from where I am right now is, from my point, upside down. You know, huge masses of objects and weight and all sorts clinging upside down from the point that I'm at.
Yep.
You know, it's childish and stupidity.
Yeah, he's tried to turn it 180 degrees, isn't it? I mean, the reality is that we're being told childlike fairy tales.
Yep.
And again, I pointed out what Gauss did, the differentiation between an extrinsic view, you know, like looking at the Earth as if you were God out in space and you could look down on it, and this idea of the, you know, being on the surface and only being able to measure it. So, you know, that the childlike fantasy is what they're telling us, that we can stand upside down in a fucking ball. Yeah. And so the coloured gentleman is absolutely correct. Yeah.
It is new clothes type of thing where we have stopped believing what we've been told is the model in our heads.
Yeah.
But what we have started doing is accepting what our own senses are telling us. And our own senses, the inner ear is very, very finely tuned, and we know that we are absolutely stationary.
What about someone like Brian Cox? Is Brian Cox a liar?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's only one straight answer to that, isn't there?
Exactly. About it, you know. If any of these dipshits are depicting the Earth to be something that's contrary to what we're actually experiencing, then of course they're fucking liars.
I mean, you'd never call somebody, you know, outright a liar. But is he mistaken? Absolutely. But are most of the world, or 99%, you know, of people mistaken? Yes.
This is what Brian Cox had to say about the flat Earth.
Put aside the fact that we've taken photographs of it, and you can see a horizon.
Like, put aside photographs. There's no photographs, dipshit, and you've never taken any fucking photographs. Right, so I put it aside and let's hear what you've got to say.
Let's discount that evidence, Brian. Keep going.
Not only can you see the horizon, but you can see things move behind the horizon or in front of it on the height that you choose to look at the things.
And why is that, Brian? You're not going to get anything. defining here. You're just going to leave assumptions hanging in the fucking air, you know.
No discussion about vision or visual limits or atmospheric conditions or
the left to right missing curvature.
Yep, all these things are just going to be skipped over, Brian.
I'm lost for words. It's probably the most nonsense.
So a wee second ago, leaving the images aside, and he done that as if he was going to get into some extensive other proofs, and we get a wishy-washy, something happening at the horizon, and now, I'd imagine he's just going to go straight into fucking ridicule. Put the pictures aside, Brian. What else have you got, son? Fuck all.
Well, that's what I mean about a scientist. This man should be ashamed to call himself such.
Yep.
And there's definitely a difference between scientists that are still caught up in mathematical sophistry and don't realize what they're doing, and this cocksucker, right, who's most definitely telling fucking fibs, because you can tell the way he's arguing, that he doesn't have anything else because he probably never studied it.
No.
Just a fucking actor.
Or he has studied it and he's just complicit and actively lying, as you say.
Sorry, it makes me angry, that one.
Yeah.
That a thinking human being could possibly make. It is drivel.
So there we go.
That's from a scientist.
So exactly, that's it. That's what we're getting. That's from a scientist. Well, Brian's a scientist of fucking stupidity then.
Yep. Well, look, he's already done two things, right? He's broken down all communication, right? He's not wanting any dialogue or any discussion. That's said basically in his immediate thing, even though we've been asking him to come to the platform for 2 years. And secondly, he has brought absolutely no proof of nothing. He hasn't even brought a good argument, as you say. It's just he just lapsed into ridicule.
He's just used emotive expression to say it's just ridiculous and stupid or whatever the fuck he was saying.
Yep.
He was, and he said something very interesting there. He said it's nonsensical, and we say that's actually not true. What our own senses tell us is that the Earth is
But
stationary.
nobody's fallen off the edge of it.
Nobody
So
has
at
fallen off
what
the edge.
point?
They heard that.
This is what I'm saying about this constant regurgitation of. This is why people, you've got to look at it and say, are they really trying? Are they really trying to maintain the lie? Because they just keep repeating this same old fucking tired cack.
They're not getting any better, so you wonder. You do wonder. Right?
I would be making Holly uncomfortable there and just say, why would you, invoke an edge? Where are you getting that for, Holly? And then watch her get into meltdown. Answer.
Can I just respond to what Brian said there? He said things disappear behind the curve, and one of the main reasons why we believe that the Earth is a fixed stationary plane.
Yeah.
I need to just give Darren here a wee bit of praise there, because that's exactly what should be happening continually. Don't let them wander away from points. Always bring them back and make sure you get your response across.
Yep. No, he's quite right. He did pull them back. Good on him.
Because things aren't disappearing as quickly as they should be. We can see cities and mountains and islands 40, 60, 100 miles. The world photography distance record is 273 miles, right? And we can see the tips of the Pyrenees from the south of France, and you should
You can't see the base of.
It's throwing in understanding linear perspective there. Artists and people involved in that line of what would hear that and quickly understand exactly what he was talking about, because they apply it every day.
Yep.
Well, of course not.
Because the Earth is round.
Not because of the Earth is round, because of perspective, and because of the way light works, and because
So
of the way our eyes work.
we interviewed on it. One of the highlights of my career actually was interviewing Major Tim Peake.
A wee bit of emotional appeal here.
Yep.
One of the highlights of my career was interviewing Tim Peake, setting it up, strongly that Tim Peake's a honest guy and he really is up to what they're professing they're up to, and she's committed and invested in that, and so should you be, because it's Holly Willoughby.
Yep, he must be telling the truth. He's been on TV with me.
And it's a highlight of my career.
Yeah. Here we go. We're going to have the next thing is going to be the usual. Are you calling him a liar?
Yeah.
up in space on the International Space Station.
Right.
Now, he brought in his beautiful book. You see the curvature of the Earth. You very clearly see that.
Oh, fucking book, Holly. I've got a few books you can have a wee look at. And because it's in a book, that must mean it's real.
Hey, it's the Scottish national fucking animal, so don't let them tell me unicorns aren't real. Yeah.
Exactly. Got loads of pictures of unicorns, Holly. You believe they're real.
It's a circle. So are you telling me that this interview with him, I'm talking to somebody that's just made that up or wasn't actually there?
Yeah, he's not. Can I just?
He's not in outer space.
Can I just?
Where is he then?
Well, let's see. I'm hoping they're going to say, of course, he's not in outer space, because let's listen to what they're telling us about what space actually is, and then apply that to physics and what our understanding of how the objective reality actually works. And if somebody's telling us that we are adjacent to a vacuous, empty space, and we are in a pressurized environment with no solid separation between the two, then yes, they're fucking lying, Holly.
Absolutely. Let's have the argument as to why space even exists. How do we come about that assumption? Is it just because we want to have an extrinsic view and be able to look down on a big ball?
Yeah.
Is that what it's all about? The mathematical definition visualized?
Yeah, exactly.
In a Hollywood studio type
Not necessarily.
environment. Maybe here, maybe where we are now.
See, that for me is weak, as I say, rather than just saying, oh, well, they're doing it in a Hollywood studio. That doesn't really get right to the core of it. Again, getting back to the science aspect of it and how, pressure systems actually work in reality is a much stronger position to put forward. Because then if people look at that, they're going to accept that. And then, of course, they're going to realise that what they're telling you about space and the physics, the properties of space are bullshit.
Exactly. That's where I think, well, we say it so often, Dale, that it has to be, a scientific argument here, a natural scientific argument here, right? So if the argument just goes into a kind of conspiracy theorist that it's in a basement in Hollywood and, I can't prove that and you can't prove that, then it just kind of, dilutes the more powerful argument that should be followed.
Right. I mean, as I say, just go back to, well, let's address the claims of what space is and its relationship to us on Earth, and then let's look at physics to see the practicality of that, or whether it's got any merit, any possibility of being true. And if you do that, you will find that it's totally absurd.
Yep, and again, I can only say it's much better for people to look at those natural physics questions and study that, rather than running down a rabbit hole of trying to find out where they fucking filmed the Hollywood space missions. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, people look at magicians and, the magician's floating and levitating in the street. You don't automatically assume because you see that's what he's really up to. People are critical enough to realise that there's obviously a physical aspect behind it, or that it's deceiving. So it's the same thing that applies here. What does physics, the actual physical world, tell us about these things? Not just, we'll throw out our understanding of the physical world because an image contradicts it, but the image must be favoured. That's just total lunacy.
Yep, absolutely. Spot on, man. We're in a contained system with level water. So how can anything else be, even thought about? So any space theories of potato rocks and blue testicles are just nonsense to begin with. There's no evidence for it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You cut through that, it then alleviates the problems, as you pointed out, of conspiracy theory. You've got nothing to prove. You're saying it's a Hollywood basement, blah blah blah. Then you've got nothing there. You're on shaky ground. Attack it from a different point of view.
Stick to natural science. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're saying that Tim Peake
Tim
is alive.
Well, if you look at Tim Peake and people like Neil Armstrong and all the astronauts, they're all military guys. If you look at them, they're all military. They're not scientists.
No. See, again, we're leading the way into this, and you've now got Philip going, no, because it just becomes a matter of you against them with nothing substantial.
Yep.
As we've just pointed out, you point out the scientific aspects, then that negates all this stuff, because of course they must be telling lies. They're representing reality in a way that is totally absurd to what we know to be true.
Yep, and I also think it's, again, not a clever argument or route to take, because it's polarizing
Yeah.
military and scientists, you know. But
Yeah.
if you look back at, you know, a lot of the scientific achievements, you know, they
Yeah.
were military driven or naval or exploration, let's call it, rather than, you know,
Right.
wars, right?
It's also suggesting that the majority of military personnel are complicit liars when it's just not the case. So as you say, it is. It's putting a divide there that doesn't have to be there.
Yep, I think that's a mistake as well. Yep.
They're not. No, they're not. 230 individuals from
No,
eight
they're not.
visited the space station. They were not all military. Some were teachers.
Philip, I've got 238 pals that have been to the fifth dimension and seen unicorns and leprechauns and all sorts of fairies and monsters.
Well, there's 5 million Scotsmen that know unicorns are the Scottish national animal. So
I'm sure there's tens of thousands that would profess that the Loch Ness Monster is real. So get up there with your money in your pocket and donate it to the folks of the Scottish Islands to go and see fucking Nessie, you moron.
We've met some of the ordinary people. Are all 230?
Again, appealing. We've met them. If I've met them, that must mean what they're saying is true because I've met them.
yep. Again, I appeal to popularity, popular opinion. Yeah.
It's emotional manipulation here.
Can we just end this debate by saying,
No, wait.
And again, you know, I have to. This really, you know, grinds on me. This debate really pisses me off because again, you're giving elevation to a false dichotomy here. There only is one reality. You don't fucking debate it. You know.
a beautiful globe over
It's been
here.
going for quite some time.
We've got a fantastic globe over here,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to ask ISS, NASA, whatever, to zoom out of the Earth right now,
Yeah.
and show us planes, right, from a distance. Let's say 233.
I'm going to have to disagree and stop this here. This is absurd now. You know, people when they go in these avenues, you're opening yourself up to these dipshits. So this guy's now saying this, you know, oh, well, zoom in and show me. What if they fabricate something through, you know, video manipulation, whatever it is, and then show you that? Is that new? You now have to believe it's a globe just because they've adhered to your demands? No, they're not going to show us that because what they're telling us about space is bullshit, as we've just established. So you can cut all this stuff off by just understanding how to cut through the bullshit, get right to the point. And then if they keep invoking these things, you just refer them back to what's just been established. Well, does it represent what we know and understand about the physical world? No. So I don't even need to go there. Don't be saying, zoom in and show me this and show me that. It's fucking crap.
Yep, fully agree. Yep, it's inconsequential, basically, you know.
Aye, it's the same as, you know, people arguing with me, we'll just use unicorns, and then they're saying, well, if you want me to believe a unicorn, I want you to zoom in on it and video one and show me it. Well, no problem, I'll produce that for you, no fucking bother. So as soon as I've done that, you now have to concede that unicorns are real. Nah, bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you've agreed on a point that, you know, and it's been rejected, then you can't keep coming back to it. That, as I say, is of no consequence. And at some point, it just gets into all this, you know, because it's all half fantasy, you know, it's very difficult to find any real arguments. As I say, it's like arguing about, you know, how Scotty's warp drive works on the Enterprise, right? You know, what the fuck, you know?
Let's debate it.
Miles away, because we've got the
a bit
technology.
like that.
And let's show aeroplanes flying upside down underneath here. Let's zoom to show people walking upside down. Let's do
And
it.
that's, for me, that's just a funny, kind of entertaining point, you know, a bit of absurdity and ridicule in the globe. You know, when I say these things, I don't really mean it, because I'm not expecting or waiting or wanting them to provide that for me, because as we've established, they already know what they're telling me is bullshit based on a fundamental understanding of the physical world and how things interact with each other. So, you know, that's good for a laugh sake, but I wouldn't be trying to use it as a valid point.
I'm in agreement with you. So I don't need it knowing how water behaves.
Exactly.
And secondly, what he's really pointing out is there, I think, the more fundamental assumption that there is a space into which I can retreat to take a view of a spherical testicle in a vacuum. Yeah. And that's the assumption that we should be attacking.
Exactly, which is why I keep saying about the opposing pressure systems. Well, you know right from the off it's bullshit because you know that's impossible.
That, and we will. I'll come back
the
in and
space station
apologize.
can't zoom out to 230. It can't zoom out to beyond
So
where
can we
it's
get a probe out? Can we get a probe out?
We've done that.
So it's 250
Of the whole Earth and showing aeroplanes flying upside down underneath the globe. Can you
Yeah.
see that?
All we
See,
see
it's leaving it wishy-washy in the minds of people viewing this.
I mean, obviously, it's a difficult job with presenters that are, reading off a script and corralling you through 40 minutes or 10 minutes. Sorry, it's not even time for a real discussion. But
Exactly.
yeah, and still being, I think being more consequential would be more helpful.
I totally understand that in the position that people may be in, which again brings you back to the being committed and being fully aware of, the tools you have and how you can proceed in an attack form. And if you do that right from the off, you're never going to allow them to get to these points, which is why it's hugely important that people get what we're saying.
Yeah, and you've said it as many times as well, Dale. We're not saying that we're absolutely 100% correct, and I don't want to be seen as some kind of smart arse here, thinking that we could do a better job. But I still think pointing out what the problems are and how to improve it is meant to be, critically constructive rather than disruptive.
Exactly, it's not an attack on any of these individuals. It's certainly not to belittle them in any way, shape or form. This is why I'm saying about communication and the ability just to point things straight out. And if people are secure in themselves, then we can accept these things. And if they're determined about pushing forward and having progress, then all this stuff is important for it. And people can learn from these things and refine their own skill and the ability to talk about it. So it's certainly not a put down on any of these people. And as you says, Gav, it's not that we're sitting on a high horse thinking that we're something better. I can only represent me and how I would approach things, and that's all I can offer.
Yep. And all I can say is don't let anybody represent you.
Exactly.
Neither me nor Dale nor the three guys in front of us. That's why I think it's so important that people are empowered to.
Yeah.
Oh, there are apps that can show you that.
Well, airplanes flying upside down.
Right.
Wow.
Yes, there's a live positioning of all the airplanes on the world. They're on there.
What thought means is a wee digital device showing wee digital aeroplanes.
Yeah. Showing the latitude and longitude on a two-dimensional surface, and then the altitude of the aeroplane in a cylinder above that ground control tower. That's the way, aircraft, airplane, navigation works. Control towers, right?
Exactly.
They basically work on that premise.
Yep.
So it doesn't mean anything just because an app can show blips on a fucking screen. I mean, for fuck's sake.
As I say, NORAD can show you where Santa Claus is on Christmas Eve with the reindeer. So.
because the Hubble telescope.
The positions of all unicorns in Scotland. Yeah.
Exactly.
I want an app for that.
At every given moment in time. Yeah.
Whether they're visible or invisible as well. They've got
we already have it, mate. I'm sure there was the trend of Pokemon or something, where people could go about with their wee devices and see non-entities in an area of their street or wherever they may be, and they can pick up rewards and stuff like that. So there you go.
Geocaching. Yeah, we should hide unicorns in Scotland.
That's it.
Yeah, so what we're asking NASA to do here now on live television is turn that telescope round, zoom in on the Earth, and show us live pictures of people walking on the side, and underneath.
These pictures are live now.
You want them to zoom in
the
and
whole
see
Earth.
actual people.
You want to see the whole Earth.
Again, for me, it's funny for comedic value and a bit of ridicule to point out the absurdity, but to actually put it up there as a legitimate thing is asking for trouble, and you're just confusing people with that.
Well, I mean, the problem is also the whole issue on perspective. So if you really were far enough away to take the whole of the Earth in one single view, you would not be able to discern the smaller things that are crawling around the surface, right? So it wouldn't even necessarily prove it. I'm not sure you could actually see it. And, as we know, the Hubble's not a way out there, in space, because it doesn't fucking exist. Then the question is mute to begin with.
Yeah, that's it. That's the point.
Zoom in.
Actual people. That's what military satellites do. They zoom in and target one.
Have you watched a science fiction film that looks
quite real.
Science fiction.
Exactly.
And
And
you say, oh, I'm going to lay down.
mix it all up.
I'm going to lay down the gauntlet now. We had a debate at the weekend with three lovely physicists. Two of them are going to their PhD. One of them has got their PhD.
Yeah.
We are now laying down the gauntlet to Brian Cox, and I would love to have a few actors involved, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye. We love actors, so if they can come along as well, it'd be great. And we'll debate them.
Absolutely.
We'll get our team around the world. Some people would say around the globe, but that's just ridiculous. But around the world, and we'll actually debate them anywhere they choose. All we've got to do is ask you to help set up.
Can you ask Carl Streamwise?
Well, we've been asking that for a long time, you know.
Absolutely, I'll come.
Aye, well, that's it. I would like to be present with any of these things. I'm nominating myself to take part in any of these kinds of discussions. I certainly would never be classing it as a debate, you know, because again, it's fallacious from the off. There is no fucking debate. You either understand something about reality and can demonstrate it, or you don't.
Absolutely.
Me a question, because I have personally seen with my own eyes the curvature of the Earth.
Oh, that's the ultimate fallacy. Yeah. Are you calling me a fucking liar?
Aye, it's that. Paul's backing them up there, you know.
Is it the circle vision of your
It's not
sight?
either.
Is it the circle limit of your sight? Because obviously the
I
limit of our
was
eyesight.
very, very lucky.
I can guarantee you, Philip, you're not seeing bendy water, mate. I can guarantee you that, son. So your eyes are fucking mistaken.
And I went on Concorde.
Okay.
So I was very lucky I went to Concorde. So that's 60,000 feet. You could clearly see the curvature of
And what's
the
the
Earth.
shape of the windows?
Notice his expressions and how he puts emphasis on it. You know, that's part of the NLP tactics to try and get that into the minds of the people viewing. You know, to reaffirm it in their minds. You know, it's useless against people like us, Philip. Maybe the gullibles will work with, but it's not going to work with people like us, and people like us are going to continue to keep pushing forward. So I would quit it before you start looking like a deliberate asswipe. You know.
Good one, man. Yeah.
So
Philip, take heed.
no, I said no. I didn't say that. I said what was the shape of the windows? Was what I said.
Like an oval.
Scientists themselves
oval, right?
tell us that you have to be 50.
You can see the ridicule, the shock, horror, like disbelief that he's expressing here. His emotive expression, which is purely designed just to affect the viewers that are watching.
Aye, there'll be more articles about Philip after this in the newspapers for the next 3 weeks, you know, than about the actual topic. You know, they'll find a way to spin it.
To see the curvature of the globe. A plane, an average commercial plane, travels up to 7 miles, which is around 33,000 feet.
Which Concorde wasn't.
You were about 10 or 12 miles. So it's still, again, way below what scientists themselves tell us.
Oh, I've got
You need
so
to
many
get
questions.
to see
We're
it.
going to have to end this. I'm really sorry. I really want to ask you about hold
Well, come and ask us a question, Solly. We'll gladly answer your questions for you.
Hold on. We can continue. But we asked Paul, you've got a long way to convince our viewers, I'm
Absolutely.
afraid. Do you think the Earth is flat? No, say 94% of viewers.
There we go, Gav. There's one of these things that you were pointing out a minute ago.
Absolutely. And you see the question, do you think the Earth is flat? So why was the question not, do you think there is sufficient evidence for a globe, you know?
Exactly.
Or any measurable proof for a globe, you know, using the proper definition of measuring. It's not as if the people are too stupid to understand it, you know. That's the thing. She's actually treating people like complete fools, right, by asking these loaded questions.
Yeah, well, people are complete fools if they're sitting fucking watching it and being affected by it. No, I'm not going to make any apologies for saying that. That's just a fact. If you're influenced and affected by these two thickos, then you get serious issues.
Yeah, I mean.
6%.
Oh.
About right.
Um,
All I'd say is go research it for yourself. There is a wealth of material online.
all right.
Have a look
We're
for
living in the
yourself.
age of technology. There's no excuse anymore.
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
Thank you, thank you. Although the
And if
Greeks
you,
saw the shadow on the thing, they
If you are,
Oh, the Greeks saw the shadow on the thing. Very articulate there, Holly. Very scientific.
The thing. Right?
The Greeks saw the shadow on the thing. Well, what can I say? You know, you there?
I am indeed. What can we say? Maybe I can just close it with one more little wiki page, my man.
Aye, of course, mate. Hold on. Where are you?
I'll just share my screen just to hammer one point home. Should be showing now, is it?
Aye, I'm sure you're showing.
So the definition of a sphere, just to hammer the point home about the difference in mathematics. So while outside mathematics, the terms sphere and ball are sometimes used interchangeably, in mathematics, the above distinction is made between a sphere, which is a two-dimensional closed surface. So two-dimensional is the word here, that's the geometry.
Yeah.
Embedded in a three-dimensional Euclidean space. So you're supposed to believe it's living in a three-dimensional space. But all you're talking about geometrically is the two dimensions of its surface.
Yeah.
So that's the sphere. And the ball is a three-dimensional shape that includes the sphere and everything inside the sphere, right? That means also the center point. So there is a center of the earth, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's the ball description.
Yeah.
Whereas a sphere is a two-dimensional geometry, a ball is a three-dimensional geometry.
Yeah.
This distinction has not always been maintained, and especially older mathematical references talk about a sphere as a solid. So it's been well known for a long time that the geometry of a three-dimensional ball and the geometry of a two-dimensional sphere that's imagined to be in a three-dimensional space, right, and looks like a three-dimensional ball, it's been known for a long time that the geometries are very, very similar, so they're easily confused.
Yeah.
So what we use for astronomy and navigation is the two-dimensional spherical geometry, yeah, and what we're told on TV and in Hollywood and in fucking plastic toys on our desk is that the thing is a ball, yeah, and they can get away with it because the mathematical definitions are so close, yeah, and so easily confused with sophistry.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Excellent. So, as I say, Gary had contacted me saying that he was more willing to come on and talk about it. If there's a place for that, then we can maybe look at that for Saturday. If Gary hears this, then by all means, it'd be great to have a chat about the experience and what actually went on. As I say, we're not offering anything up other than how we see things and how we would move forward and persist with the conversation. And that's all we can offer, you know. But as I say, if it refines things and has progress for people in order to, you know, discuss these things, and that's all we can offer. It's not about we're right and they're wrong and it's a competition between persons. So it's not about that, you know?
No, definitely not. No, yeah, it'd be great.
Aye.
Love to hear how it went. Never
Aye.
experienced one of these things myself, so never been on TV. Not that I really want to, but
Well,
I definitely want to improve the level of discussion and, you know, spread it, especially amongst academia. I mean, you know, my standpoint on that, you know, these people need to be held accountable at some stage, and they need to get out of their corners, right? Otherwise, they're going to look ridiculous when, you know, every single common person, you and my granny know it, yeah, and the academics are still pretending that the mathematical sophistry is correct. Yeah, and falling in line with imagery and conditioning. You know, that can't be what education's about, surely not.
I mean, the strongest aspects of the globe are the imagery and the conditioning. You know, the rest of it is very weak.
Yes.
They are the two main supporting aspects, which is, you know, should be telling for people.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, love to have a conversation. Yep.
Definitely. Well, hopefully, you know, he's available. We can have that on Saturday.
Right.
I wouldn't mind that.
I'm cool for that. I'm actually going to call it a short night tonight, my man.
No bother, mate. Not a problem. Aye, cool. Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it. I'm just going to read through some messages and some comments in the comment box, and then I'll do the same, you know.
Man, have a good one then. See you Saturday then, yeah?
Nice one, mate.
Thanks, my man. Bye, everybody. Cheers.
Easy. Cheers, bud. I'm just going to say, for anybody wondering where the wee cat is not feeling very well, and I hope the wee cat recovers very soon. Send your prayers. So maybe I'll be saying to you, see. Paul Etchells, Dale, anyone who has watched you for a while would just know you have been at it for a long time. All your points are bang on, mate. There is no challenge in your words. You only speak sense, and sense using our senses is undeniable. Fuck the globe. Washed. Nice one, Paul. Cheers, mate. So I'll see if I can get a wee feel for what people thought about the TV appearances, and I think there was another appearance, but we'll maybe leave that for the Saturday. I know there was a BBC, I don't know if it was a radio phone in as well, I don't know. And another person who I forgot about, I'd seen it a few years ago, was Tommy Boyd. I don't know if people will remember Tommy Boyd as being a children's TV presenter, who actually was bringing this topic up. I think the video or the radio section that I'd seen aired was from 2010. And Tommy Boyd's a UK based, he was a children's entertainer who obviously grew up and moved beyond it and started to talk about some real stuff. So that's there online as well. Maybe have a wee look at that on Saturday, just to show it to people. And if you're not aware of it, I'm sure you'll find it. I know that a couple of years ago people had been sharing it anyway. It was known to be there. But for anybody who's new to it, it may be of interest to you. I don't know if you can relate to it because you know him as a celebrity from your childhood, but trivial nonsense there. So, right, what we're saying in the chat. Adam IFE has posted it. Sorry, where'd that go? Shit. Has posted Tommy Boyd. There you go. Adam IFE. Maybe subliminally I've seen that and it's triggered the memory. Cheers, Rickus Vaticus. Adam IFE channel apparently has a Tommy Boyd radio section in it. Markowski mainstream won't promote anything that is against the establishment line. Yeah, I mean, people really have to consider this, and I'm not going to be shy about airing my concerns and how it comes about that people end up on mainstream TV and what it could imply for the possibilities of the future. I mean, can only speculate. I can envision a few possibilities. John Jones, how you doing, mate? Have you had your meet-up yet? If you've not had your meet-up, can you remind me of when that is? I'm going to shout it out right now. I think I've seen that Jamie Brown had something going on. So Jamie Brown, if you have a meet-up that you're wanting to let people know about, just type it in the chat box and I'll get it right now. How you doing, Meryl? No, Eratosthenes was not a man. Because Vaticus beyond the Magic Cup, please shout out the London Feltham meet, 26th of May. There's a meet up on the 26th of May, Feltham. No, Lou, it's not that Tommy Boyd, but I agree. Yeah, plain permaculture. I'm just waiting here. John Jones, if you're hearing me, I don't know if your meet-up's been, bud. If you're still having it, if you want to let me know, I'll shout it out. I know, concerned citizen, I've just addressed that. I don't know when Jamie's meet-up. Beyond belief, Jamie's meet-up is on the 5th of May, next Saturday at 12 PM in Heaton Park, Stables Cafe, Manchester. John Jones, 26th of May at 1 PM, 30 The Centre, High Street. What's that? I don't know if that's 1:30 PM or 1 PM. So 26th of May at 1 PM, The Centre, High Street, Feltham. TW134AU. I think that's the beauty of these now. You know, if people are watching it back at a later date, I think they can see all this stuff in the chat box as well. So it's good to have that. West Coast Wisdom, how you doing? Aye, exactly. You know, the ISS cameras will now be upside down. You don't ask for it. You know, it's, as I say, it's absurd what they're claiming and professing to be up to. So we don't need to demand that they pan cameras around and show us different angles. We know they're talking shite. Bill, how you doing, bud? Dale Bill Nye, the Science Freak, is going to be here in Orlando, May the 12th. You can speak to him for $175. Not bad, eh? Maybe one day I'll be there, Bill, and I can charge people $175 to come and listen to me swearing at them. I'm up for that. That's a job I would enjoy. Fuck you. Give me your 150 quid. Chelsea Deluxe Roxanne Glen has a meet-up in June the 26th in London. Hopefully I'll be able to attend some of these meet-ups if I can get the funds together. I certainly will. I would like to do a wee tour and maybe come and meet some people up and down the country. Do some activism, have some chats. Hi Tanya, are you alright? Concerned citizen, people would pay Dale. Cool, I think I'll book the community hall. You know, 100 quid a ticket. It may not last long. In fact, I'll have a wee private booth and each individual can come into the private booth and have a fuck you, get to fuck personal message. And it'll be of value, you know, it'll be worth 100 quid. Go fund Dale. Brian Fury, any Northern Ireland meetups happening? I'm not sure. The last person that I had for the Irish meetups was Irish Technical Thinker. I've not seen him about for a while. I don't know what's going on there. Cheers, John Jones. I may just take you up on that offer if I get the money to fuel up the bike and come on a wee tour. I would definitely appreciate that. ITT, is that it? It's ITT again. Right, so again, I'll just say, Gary, I don't know if you'll hear this. If you're up for it on Saturday, it'd be good to hear how the experience went. You're more than welcome to join us on Saturday. You can let me know and I'll send you the link. Cheers to Gav again for offering what he had tonight. Magumba, Jonah Worms, Marshall, I know you're not there. Des, if you're about, mate, much appreciated. Magumba as well. So I'll see you again on Saturday, people. Take it easy.